Hey, thank you for tuning in. This is Adam from Digital Goja Showrooms, and it is Friday, and here is today's FAQ, and we're doing the FAQ on the Canon's flagship, the EOS 1DX Mark II. I searched Amazon, eBay, or customer support, and I took the 15 most frequently asked questions on this camera. If this video helped you out, please hit that like button down below and subscribe to our channel. And if you're in the Miami area, please say hello to Izzy and I at the Digital Goja Showroom. So how's the ISO performance compare from the 1DX Mark II to the 5D Mark IV when taking video? Well, on the 1DX Mark II, I'm going to go through the different ISOs you have on the camera, and later we're going to show you the differences when shooting at the similar ISOs. So the 1DX Mark II is capable of ISOs from 100 all the way to 51,200. So we can scroll all the way to 51,200. And on the 5D Mark IV, we're going to turn that on and we're going to change the ISO, and you get from ISO 100 all the way to ISO 32,000. So if you take a look at the examples that I'm going to post, you'll see how each camera compares to each other, and they do a phenomenal job. But again, the 1DX is capable when taking still photos. You're capable of shooting all the way up to 51,200 in a pinch. So that's a really great feature to have, especially if you're going to shoot indoors, low light, no flash. You want to be a little bit more discreet. The 1DX, in my opinion, is going to be a winner as far as ISO performance, cleaner ISO, especially at like ISOs like 32,000 or 6,400 or stuff like that. So take a look at the 1DX Mark II if you're serious in low light photography. How do you access the 120 frames per second high frame rate video mode on this camera? So what you're going to want to do first is make sure that the mode is set to video. Once it's set to video, you're going to hit menu. You're going to scroll through till you get to movie recording quality. And you're going to have the option to choose between an MOV file, MP4 file, the recording size, so whether or not you want to shoot 4K or full 1080p. You have 24p, which is the true 24p, and you have your high frame rate. This is going to allow you to shoot at 120 frames per second at 1080 on the EOS 1DX Mark II. So you're going to want to hit set. You're going to go enable, and you're going to see that it's going to go from whatever the current frame rate is chosen to 119.9 frames per second. It's also going to be in the MOV format, all I, and it's going to tell you how much time you can record. Please note also, when recording in the high frame rate, you're not going to record any audio. So if you're looking to record audio, you're going to have to record it separately with a separate audio recorder. And you're just going to hit enable, and that's going to enable the high frame rate on the Canon EOS 1DX Mark II. When shooting in the 4K video mode, does the camera crop the image? Yes, it does. In 4K, you're going to get approximately a 1.3x crop. And if you take a look at the sample footage that I did with it, you'll see what I'm talking about. I shot with a 24mm lens, and the first shot will show you at 1080, which would record the full frame, and then we're going to switch it into the 4K mode, which will show you the crop with the camera. So does the camera crop when shooting high frame rate video at 120 frames per second? No, the camera is actually using the full pixel readout and the full sensor for 120 frame rate recording. What's the maximum ISO you can use when recording either 4K or 1080p video? So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you in the video mode, which we're in right now. We're going to hit the start and stop button. We're going to push menu, and we're going to go into make sure that it's in full HD. So when we do that, we're going to hit the ISO button. We're going to bring up all the different ISOs that are available. So we're going to scroll through, and at 1080, you can go up to a maximum of 25,600. So now we're going to go back into the menu. We're going to go into movie record quality, and we're going to choose 4K video. So if we choose any one of these options for 4K video, have to go back. If we choose any of these options for 4K video, we're going to now push the ISO button, and you're going to notice that the highest number that's going to be active for your ISO level is going to be 12,800. So shooting 4K, you get 12,800 ISO as your max ISO, and you're going to get 25,600 ISO at 1080p when recording video. So what is the color bit depth and color subsampling when recording out to an external recorder, either in 4K or 1080? Well, remember you have an HDMI out, which is going to give you clean, uncompressed video out to a video recorder like an Atomos device, and you get 8-bit 422 color either at 4K 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, or 1080 video modes. So how does the camera handle the rolling shutter issue? Well, the 1DX handles the rolling shutter pretty well. But it's still noticeable, especially if you're doing fast movements with the camera. And if you take a look at the sample video that I provided, I show you actually the comparison in 1080, 4K, and I show you between what it looks like on the 5D Mark IV and the Canon EOS 1DX Mark II. So take a look at that, and you'll see for yourself how it's affected. I'm using a 50mm lens on each camera, and I have the camera set at the same distance. So take a look, see how it affects, and make your own opinion on whether the camera would work for you or not. So how does the 4K 60 frames per second compare to the 1080 120 frames per second? In my preference in my shooting, and I'll show you a sample, I prefer the 4K 60 over 1080 120 frames per second in terms of quality, but if you need something that's going to give you a smoother slow motion, definitely go for the 120 frame rate. But in terms of quality, the 4K 60 frames per second works really well. So take a look at the sample footage that we'll provide you. So does the camera record audio when shooting in either 4K 60p mode or the 1080 60p mode. And if you go here and we change it to 4K 60, it's not going to tell you anything about not recording audio. It will record audio in 60 frames per second and also 60 frames per second in 1080. The only time that you don't get audio recorded in camera is when you're shooting at 120 frames per second. But remember, when you're going to slow down the video in post, it's going to affect your audio as well. But it does record audio at 60p. How many shots can you get on a fully charged battery? So Canon went with a brand new battery on the EOS 1DX Mark II. This is the LPE19 battery. So if you're going to shoot with the optical viewfinder, you're going to get roughly 1,210 shots without using live view on a fully charged battery, and you're going to get approximately 250 to 300 shots using the live view feature on the camera. So what type of card is recommended when shooting 4K video or high frame rate at 1080p? Well, I'll show you what card we have in there right now. We're using a compact flash card, which is in slot 1. Slot 2 would be for the CFast 2 card. So we have a 64 gigabyte card right over here. And this works really well when taking photos, RAW plus JPEG, RAW alone. And it's able to handle some 4K footage, but I definitely recommend looking into the CFast 2 cards. Those cards are going to have much faster write speeds, so they're going to be able to handle more data bandwidth. So it's recommended to shoot in 4K, 4K 60, high frame rate 1080p, or if you're going to shoot continuous RAW and you want to just burn out the card, you'd want a CFast 2 card that's going to be able to give you that unlimited JPEG and RAW capability shooting it, when shooting stills as well. So what's the point of having an Ethernet port on your camera? Well, the Ethernet port's usually going to be used by press photographers, photojournalists, and this is going to allow the photographer to connect directly to a server so you can transmit your files at a faster rate than wirelessly or when you don't, especially when you don't have access to a computer. So does this camera shoot in RAW for video as well as photos? Well, it can shoot RAW photo, either medium, large, or small. But for video, you cannot record RAW video, and you can't even record RAW video out of the camera. As we take a look, you can get uncompressed video out through the HDMI into an external recorder. You can only record out 1080p. You can't record out 4K. So if you want to record 4K video, you'll have to record directly to your CFast 2 card or to your compact flash card. But you can't record RAW video on the Canon EOS 1DX Mark II. So how does dual pixel AF differ from the Canon 5D Mark IV and the 1DX Mark II? Well, there's going to be just slight differences, especially when recording video. I'll show you on the 5D Mark IV some of the options that you're going to have. So if you go into your menu and you scroll and you go down to your movie recording quality or AF method, you have the ability to set for AF tracking, Flexi Zone AF, zone, Flexi Zone AF with a smaller area. And you can, once you select that, then you're able to change your movie servo AF speed, and you have quite a bit of control. You have 2 steps fast, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps the opposite direction on the 5D Mark IV, and it's going to be the same on the 1DX Mark II, But if we take a look at the 1DX Mark II, we're going to go into the AF method, and you're going to notice that there's only two options. There's face detect tracking and flexi zone with a smaller square. So it's a little bit different from the Canon 5D Mark IV and the EOS 1DX Mark II. But as far as the amount of control that you're going to have, that's going to be the same. So if we go into the movie servo for the 1DX, you're going to see that you're going to have the option to go 2 steps plus and -7 on the opposite end. So that's going to be the same. Does the camera have built-in Wi-Fi? No, the 1DX Mark II does not have built-in Wi-Fi. It does have a built-in GPS module. To get Wi-Fi and to be able to have access to your Canon Control app on your iPhone or Android device, what you would need to do is purchase the WFT E8A module for the Canon, and the module would actually plug into the side over here. And as I said, what's updated is going to be the speed of transfer, but also the fact that you can now connect your pro level 1DX Mark II with the Canon Connect app on your phone or tablet. Well, I hope I answered all your questions about the Canon EOS 1DX Mark II. If I didn't, please leave your questions down below and I'll be happy to answer them. And don't forget, share this video with your family, your friends, fellow photographers. I'll see you in the next video. Until then.